Gibson is a company with a long history, one of those who made the acoustic guitar as we know it today. They had years of rapid development and forced downtime. Guitars that have sunk into oblivion and successful examples that are still produced to this day. I was lucky enough to get acquainted with the chronology of their development and practice while preparing those very original, sometimes quite rare specimens that have survived to this day. I've always liked vintage guitars. There is something intriguing and reverent about them. Scratches, cracks, stories of their previous owners, and many years of use. I've made a series of videos in each of which I will talk about a different guitar that has become iconic in Gibson history. I will talk about the history of the instrument, features, materials, design. I'll start with a guitar that was released in 1928 and is associated with Delta blues and the iconic guitarist Robert Jonson. Gibson L-1. In the caption to this video, I will attach a link to a playlist where I will add new videos about each specific instrument. Enjoy watching! Many of those who had seen this guitar would say that this is Robert Jonson's guitar. Indeed, it has pretty special body shape and it's hard to confuse it to other guitars. However, few people know that a new era of Gibson acoustic guitars began with this instrument. Until the mid-20s, all guitars made by Gibson were archtop, where both top and back were convex, with arch made of whole piece of wood. They were complex, luxurious, and of course were very expensive instruments. For a long time, flat-top guitar market was ignored by Gibson and considered it minor. But by mid-20s, it became pretty popular among a variety of musicians of different styles. Hawaiian, blues, country. Being afraid of losing their position, Gibson developed their own flat-top guitar. And in 1926, two brand new models were made at Kalamazoo factory. LO, as a junior model, was made of cheaper materials and simple trim, and L1 as a senior, which became a cult. First of all, this guitar is associated with Delta blues, a black music from Mississippi Delta with its biggest star, Robert Jonson. In fact, this guitar is more often called Robert Jonson's guitar, but not L1. He used it on his studio sessions made in 1936, 1937, and holding it on this famous picture. These guitars mostly were used for solo playing and mainly for finger-picking style. Bluesmen used them as an accompaniment for live sessions and for playing tricky instrumental melodies. This L1 was made in 1928. Factory order number, FOM, defines the exact date of manufacturing. You can see it on the headblock. And using this 4-digit code, you can define the model and the year of production. This babe is pretty small, 13.7 inches width, pretty thin, about 4 inches, and depth around 4 inches. And it's incredibly light, nearly 2 pounds. Sides and back are made of mahogany. By the way, an interesting fact. First guitars in 1926 were made of maple, but the back was carved. They must have used blanks from the archtop production. Why not use it? Kind of paradox, but pretty typical for Gibson. But later, of course, all parts were made of mahogany and they were flat. The top here is made of spruce. At first, it was usually painted amber, but in 1928, it was replaced by sunburst, as you can see here. The soundboard has a celluloid binding, both top and, as you can see, bottom. By the first time, bridge was made of ebony with pyramid-shaped sides, but later, in 1928, they decided to use rosewood with a bit different shape. You can see flayed sides here. This guitar has H bracing string system. It looks like H letter. When they started the production of this guitar, they used 3 systems: A, H, and X. What for? Well, it affects both on reliability and sound of guitar. It was the first Gibson's flat-top guitar. Obviously, they were experimenting at that time. The neck here is also made of mahogany, one piece. The back profile shape is somewhere between V and C. For me, it looks like V more, but very smooth. By the way, the thickness of the head stock is not the same on this guitar. It's thicker at the base and thinner closer to the logo. In that time, all guitars were made like this. That has been changed with time, and now it's same size both ways. A truss rod was installed on this neck. Seems okay for a guitar with metal strings, but the thing is that the Gibson used to produce the same models with the truss rod and sometimes without, and it was totally random. That's why this fact is important. The logo is made with silk screen printing. The fingerboard made of the rosewood and has 3-ply binding, inlay dots from 3rd to 15th thread. Well, it used to be much more simple, only frets number 3, 5, and 7 headed. The neck joined on the 12th thread. There was a pitch with it on 13th, but then it was replaced to the 14th fret, and this became a golden standard for acoustic guitars. At the beginning, it was 25 inches long, but then it became shorter, and here it's 24¼ inches long. And this is the rarest one, as far as I know. Then they increased it up to 24¾ It's one of the most popular lengths for a Gibson guitar today. In 1929, the body shape was changed. Now it looked like the L2 model. Although it was still called L-1, it was absolutely different guitar. The Robert Jonson era was over. Well, I examined it properly. It works pretty well. Still, it has some old cracks, as you can see. Some of them were never glued, and this one was fixed once before, but it got bad again. Oh, it's so thin. When I touch it, I barely feel it. Well, no surprise it has so much cracks. Yeah, it's a real die-hard. Fascinating. It's so thin. It was made 100 years ago, and it's so thin, they were not afraid to do it. Yeah, today they don't do it that thin anymore. Alright, so now it's all glued. Now we put some lemon oil on it and we can put the strings on. Well, let's see how it sounds with new strings.
this morning, and you knocked upon my door. early this morning when you knocked upon my door. I said hello, Santa, I believe it's time to go. Me and the devil are walking in side by side. Me and the devil are walking in side by side. I'm going to beat my pretty woman until I get satisfied. You can't do it, my body, it's on the highway side. You can't do my body, you're down the highway side. My evil spirit can get great hot by sunrise.